there's a one-day sit coming up on the 7th, and if you haven't registered, please do so. It makes it a lot easier for the emails to figure out what to do. Okay. So let's do the before lecture chant. Unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even 100,000 million kalpas, having to see and listen to remember and accept. I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. I have the desk clock on my phone so I can tell what it is. So, I'm sure you're all very excited about the prospect of exploring another list of things. That's like all that's going to be happening in the next few weeks. I'm going to be talking about the 7 factors of awakening. And some of these, some of the things that were like the 5 powers are part of the 7 steps of awakening. So there's a lot of overlap and just a lot of interweaving. It's like with the precepts, you aren't just practicing one precept. Like once you get into one thing, everything else is related. So I think it's just for the ease of understanding that we designate them separately, but they really aren't. But like the 5 powers, the 7 factors of awakening are things we already have. And we can cultivate those things, much like Thich Nhat Hanh talks about watering the seeds that we want to grow.
Is that not a? I thought you were right.
Unless you want to know where I was on a certain day. Sorry. Lost my place. So, the 7 factors of awakening are referred to as Sapta Odhyanga, which means the 7 limbs or factors of awakening. After sitting under the Bodhi tree, when the morning star arose, Buddha realized enlightenment and said, "How amazing that all living beings have the basic nature of awakening, yet they don't know it. So they drift on the ocean of suffering lifetime after lifetime." So these are not only kind of a description of the path to awakening, but the characteristics of awakening. What sort of things should we be cultivating? So let's see if I can remember all 7. Mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, equanimity, concentration. Did I say joy?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
ease is the other one. And so when people study this, they usually divide them up into 3 groups. The first group is referred to as the balancing factor, and that's mindfulness, because that's the basis for everything. If you don't have some degree of mindfulness, none of these other things will really mean anything to you. And then there are 3 energizing factors: investigation, energy, and joy. And then 3 calming factors: equanimity, ease, and concentration. So I know I talked about mindfulness a little bit last time too, but there's always something to say. That, mindfulness means remembering, not forgetting where we are, what we are doing, or who we are with. And our Zazen trains us to make mindful, loving awareness our default, and then to bring that direct, undistracted awareness to everything we do. And And that mindfulness, it always arises in the context of a relationship or a situation. It isn't just something that's like, oh, I think I'll be mindful now. Oh, it's out of my pocket. It's just a way of interacting with people and things. The second factor is investigation of phenomena, which is interesting, I think. I've heard it also referred to as exploration, which I think I like a little bit better. Um, I think we all kind of like to investigate things, hoping we'll find something that will support our point of view. But to be open and allow things simply to reveal themselves is much more powerful. Because when this happens, our knowledge and our boundaries expand. We can expand our practice by bringing in curiosity, exploration, and inquiry. The third factor is virya, which we talked about last week also. That's energy, effort, diligence, or perseverance. And I think those last two are really important because it isn't just, like a burst of energy. It's like continuous energy and faith and practice. So virya is the wise effort. Making effort at the wrong time or place will dissipate your energy. And energy is vital. It's vital because the habitual forces of inertia, boredom, disengagement, giving up, and becoming overwhelmed are so strong. That cultivating this energy helps us to, one talk I was listening to said, we can't control any of these things, but we can influence them by the way we practice and the way we live. So that even if you're in physical or mental pain, you can see the meaning in your life and still have energy and joy. The fourth factor is ease. It's interesting, they describe this as careful and persistent work. Oh no, they're saying careful and persistent work is accompanied by ease because it's the absence of difficulty or a strained type of effort. It's the self settling on the self. And mindfulness sees hindrances as they arise, investigates and understands them and where they come from. And that's how we can have influence, by actually looking at what they are and what things really, that things are not always what you think they look like. It's that idea of the empty mirror. When you look in the empty mirror of mindfulness, all you see is what's actually there. You don't see your opinions, your preferences. It's just what's actually there. The fifth factor is joy. Some of the things I read called this rapture, but that was like a little too religious for me. So joy goes with happiness, but there's a difference. Joy is seen as a common side effect of concentration. And it's something that can arise as a physical energy that moves through us or an emotional delight that uplifts us. And it's possible to develop joy in your mind even if your body is not well. This in turn will help your body. Joy comes from touching things within and outside ourselves that are refreshing. I remember realizing at one point that even though I have been depressed at different times. Like I can feel more than one thing at a time. Like just because I'm depressed or just because um, I'm mourning the loss of someone doesn't mean I can't appreciate the bird that's singing outside my window, or the kindness that somebody extends to me. The sixth factor is concentration or samadhi. And what samadhi means is sam means together, and adi means bringing to a certain place the energy of the mind. So it's a state of immersion, really. It's a deep stability of attention and one pointedness that we develop in zazen. It's really hard to have concentration without mindfulness. But you have to be careful because concentration in itself is not a wholesome activity. It really makes a difference what the object of your concentration is that makes it beneficial or not. And as mindfulness develops, concentration grows stronger. The seventh factor is equanimity. Clear seeing is the basis of equanimity. It's a powerful state that has emotional and cognitive aspects. When we transcend our idea of a separate self, our love will contain equanimity. We love everyone equally, knowing that we and others are the same. Equanimity knows that every experience arises and passes due to conditions, and that every being will experience the results of their actions. So Thich Nhat Hanh describes these seven factors as limbs of the same tree. If mindfulness is developed and maintained, the investigation of phenomena will meet with success. Joy and ease are wonderful feelings nourished by diligence. Concentration gives rise to understanding, and when there's understanding, we can go beyond comparing, discriminating, reacting, and realize letting go. I think the power of that analogy is, every limb on a tree does not grow at the same rate and isn't the same size. They all grow at their own pace. And it's much like that with our practice. What we cultivate will grow. What we don't cultivate, unfortunately, as I told you last week, doesn't die. It just goes dormant. You still have it. But yeah, I found this, I don't know, really powerful. I found this a lot more practical than the five powers, and I'm not really sure why. They're just so simple. And I really like the idea of exploration or investigation of phenomena, which I should have told this to the Eno at Green Gulch when I was there in a session. And I kept asking her all these questions about the forms because I kept noticing things. And so I said, well, when we do those 9 bows in the beginning of the morning service, how come there is a bell and a stop? But there's never a bell and a stop on any other bows we do. She thought about it for a while. She said, oh, I know, because there isn't a stop after the last bell, which is how you know you're done. So ask questions. And I think that's critical to develop in your own understanding of the Dharma is that, we hear things from people that teach and we learn things from each other, but what we really learn is what we learn from practical experience. And, it isn't enough just to kind of have all this information. You really have to live it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I had this picture in my mind of just kind of like a whirlpool sort of, with mindfulness in the middle and all the other things kind of going around and mixing, and because it's alive, the whole thing's alive. Oh, that's so sad. It's 2 minutes to 6. Okay, I'm not good at giving long talks, but I'm trying. Um, I've been thinking a lot about, I've been reading Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Becoming Yourself, and thinking a lot about, what does that mean? How how do we do that? And I think we do that through practice. Um, that asking, who am I? Which I was doing for a while. Um, it's not helpful at all. It's, I think it's more useful to look at it as a verb, like who am I becoming? Am I becoming the kind of person that I want to be through my practice? And if I'm not, what do I need to change? There was also a quote in there, I don't remember it exactly, but something to the effect of, um, when you stop thinking about who you are, you can become who you want to be. So I think that's very powerful. And it changes, I mean, I've looked past over this past year since my wife passed away, and it's been very interesting. Uh, I realized that there were things I really, really like to do that I just hadn't done in a long time. Um, like put music on when I'm cooking dinner and dance around the kitchen. Silly things, but just little things that I enjoy that I think are more playful. I think I lost a lot of my spontaneity and playfulness um, when I was grieving. So I'm really happy to see that coming back. And I've been thinking about next month for Day of the Dead, I'm going to go to San Miguel de Allende for Day of the Dead. That's where Joni and I kind of started things, and it's the last place that I want to scatter some of her ashes. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm still trying to get used to whatever this means. It doesn't really mean anything. It means everything and nothing. Um, I've been working on a talk for the all day sit, and one thing that I was just really touched by when we were doing Dharma transmission is we would have a service every day, and one of the things we chanted, I can't pronounce, but it's basically described as old Buddha's letter of comfort or something like that. Like he wrote it to comfort his disciples. And there's a line in there that says, our ancestors are as we are, and we will become as our ancestors to the Buddhas that come after us. And that, I don't know why that really touched me. Um, that's one, I think, big difference I feel since Dharma transmission is the idea of a lineage, that I belong somewhere in a lineage, uh, which I really, actually, I never really thought about very much, but Yeah, it's just taken on a whole new meaning for me. I think I've exhausted my ad lib.
You did great.
Yeah. You know, I'm not really much of a talker, so it's kind of hard for me to just, you know. Okay, so. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
I have a
Why?
question.
Yeah.
Is there any chance, there might be like, you mentioned several different patterns of the 5, these, and the 7. Is there
Oh, yeah.
any, are there any like maps of those?
Well, different schools have different things. These are, I can't remember where all these are from, but all of these lists of things that we're studying, which are on Thich Nhat Hanh's the teachings of the Buddha,
Oh, okay.
are how, actually he's Vipassana, isn't he? So it's kind of like Mahayana Vipassana. And then like insight meditation, they kind of tweak it a little bit. Essentially, it's the same, but they have a different take on it. Yeah.
I like the 7.
Yeah, they're really practical. That's what I like
Yeah.
about them. So why don't we break up into groups? And I think it would be nice.
Maybe I could just mention one thing.
Sure.
Which is, I kind of have a ministry as a healer. And I've been studying the Alexander technique and practicing it for about 40 years. And for any of you that are in discomfort in your back or your body, there's something on the internet. It's about a 130-year-old process called the semi-supine position. And it's a way of allowing the back to relax into the floor, which, so it's actually a mindfulness thing that I
That's interesting.
teach
Yeah,
people,
it's
because
powerful.
when the back has, there's a letdown response in the back, just like when a woman's feeding a baby, then she has to drop the breast and the breast has to let down. Spine has that same thing, and when it does that, then the vagus nerve opens up. So anyway, it's an internal 15 minutes on the floor, getting up and down off the floor is actually not trivial. And anyway, I just offer that to anyone who's in
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I really never realized until like this last year how physically things I'm going through manifest in me. I just, I mean, I knew if I was stressed out, I'd have a headache or something. But the 3 months after Joni died, I was just like, I couldn't stay awake. I just slept and slept and slept, and then I'd get up and think I should eat something, but I'm too tired to make anything, you know. And I just think, you know, if we allow our bodies to help us in that way, you know, we can heal. But yeah, resisting that physical presentation does not go well. Okay, so groups. 16, I guess groups of 3 or 4.